The pace of victim count escalation is cause for alarm, with the impending approach of the poncho killer posing a threat to everything our heroes hold dear. Interrogating those in their midst, our detective and psychic veterinarian find it increasingly challenging to distinguish falsehoods from reality. The once evident truths to our heroes have now turned obscure, even for their psychometric abilities, which too have their bounds. The profound loss of her grandfather inflicts a lasting wound upon Yi-boon's heart. As she bids him farewell, she grapples with remorse for never summoning the courage to comprehend him. Witnessing her tears, Jang Yeol rekindles his determination to apprehend the perpetrator. He extends his role as a detective, vowing to exonerate her grandfather's name and ensure Yi-boon's well-being. During the grand funeral attended by nearly the entire town, Sun-woo's conspicuous absence triggers Jang Yeol's suspicions. As concern mounts about his prime suspect fleeing, Sun-woo eventually returns, apologizing to Yi-boon for his tardiness, having been on a quest to find his mother. Despite his expectation to console her, Yi-boon extends solace to Sun-woo, assuring him that brighter days await. Simultaneously, Gwang-shik takes it upon himself to investigate the case. He unearths evidence suggesting that Shaman Park had plotted to harm Assemblyman Cha. Relaying this revelation to Jang Yeol, a rookie detective overhears and promptly apprehends Shaman Park. Learning of the unfolding events, Yi-boon rushes to the shaman's defense, unveiling her powers to Jang Yeol's team in her efforts to persuade them. Despite requiring a few unusual demonstrations to persuade them, the other detectives eventually place their trust in Yi-boon. Leveraging Detective Na's nearly superhuman abilities, the team discreetly ushers Yi-boon into the interrogation chamber to meet with Shaman Park. Following a brief explanation of her extraordinary powers, she secures permission to delve into the shaman's memories, uncovering his alibi. He had visited Sun-woo's workshop on the fateful night, meeting with him. Jang Yeol becomes increasingly suspicious of Sun-woo's recurring presence in the case and confronts him regarding his whereabouts during the murder nights. Frustrated by the targeted scrutiny, Sun-woo extends his buttocks for inspection, having pieced together Yi-boon's secret some time ago. Consequently, Yi-boon makes physical contact with his rear, corroborating his story. Sun-woo is neither the poncho killer nor the third psychic. With Sun-woo eliminated as a suspect, Jang Yeol encounters a perplexing impasse, pondering where he might have erred in his investigation. Meanwhile, as he revisits the case mentally, Yi-boon makes a house call to Gwang-shik's farm, hitching a ride with Sun-woo. Relieved of the burden of suspicion, they relish a peaceful moment together. Observing Gwang-shik's peculiar behavior at his residence, Yi-boon's instincts kick in, prompting a discussion with OK-hee. Suddenly, a realization dawns upon her, and she rushes to Jang Yeol's residence, suggesting that they might have been manipulated from the very beginning. Gwang-shik remains the sole individual who actually saw the third psychic, and once Jang Yeol retracts his statement, all the evidence appears to converge on him. However, just as suspicion begins to cast its shadow over Gwang-shik, he becomes the next target of the poncho killer. Despite sustaining a life-threatening stab wound, he summons the strength to drag himself to Yi-boon's hospital, leaving behind a cryptic dying message, Black. A revelation beyond expectations. Meanwhile, Jang Yeol persists in his search for Gwang-shik, oblivious to the unfolding events. Fate, however, takes a fateful twist as he encounters the poncho killer during his pursuit. In a thrilling chase, he manages to corner the killer briefly, but an altercation leads to losing the assailant. Jang Yeol finds himself outside the shaman's residence, and at that very moment, Sun-woo emerges, holding a garbage bag stained with blood on his hand. Just as Jang Yeol is about to confront Sun-woo, urgent news reaches him concerning Gwang-shik. He rushes to Yi-boon's location, where the harrowing sight of Gwang-shik's lifeless body on the floor ignites a blazing fury within him. With determination, Jang Yeol bursts into Sun-woo's room, frantic to locate any evidence that could link him to the murder. Despite Sunwoo's protestations of innocence, Jang Yeol remains resolutely skeptical, vowing to apprehend him. Drawing insight from Gwangsik's cryptic dying message, Jang Yeol deduces that Gwangsik had likely uncovered something about the blackouts and knew the identity of the killer. After some experimentation, where poor Jongmuk endures imaginary stabbings 3 times over, Jang Yeol concludes that the serial killer couldn't have committed these crimes with their eyes closed. This revelation hints at the existence of a mysterious element related to these psychometric powers. Sunwoo faces doubt not only from Jang Yeol but also from the other detectives on the case, who subject him to questioning and search his premises, yielding no significant leads. Recognizing the gravity of his situation, Sunwoo seeks Yi-boon's company as an alibi by inviting her to his workshop, emphasizing that she is the only person who believes in his innocence, and she agrees to accompany him. Tailing Sunwoo, Jang Yeol heaves a sigh of frustration as he notices Yi-boon recklessly trailing behind. He calls her outside to ensure her safety and confronts her, questioning whether her affection for Sunwoo is genuine or if she simply desires companionship. If it's the latter, he awkwardly suggests dating her, but his unconventional confession only manages to upset her, leading her to label him as trash. Back at the police station, Jongmuk's superior discovers their team's unauthorized involvement in the case, directly defying his orders to stay clear of it. In retaliation, he reassigns them as backup to another town. Despite Jang Yeol's reluctance to leave during such a critical phase, Jongmuk prioritizes the livelihoods of their team members and persuades him to withdraw for the time being. Before their departure, the detectives entrust Shaman Park with a mission to locate the murder weapon. In a surprising turn, Jang Yeol temporarily places Yi-boon in a holding cell for her own safety. Justifiably annoyed by his abuse of power, she manages to free herself through a rather unconventional act, portraying herself as an eccentric lady who touches buttocks and believes in psychic powers. With her newfound freedom, Yi-boon promptly heads to Sunwoo's workshop upon receiving a call, and he informs Jang Yeol of her whereabouts. Confronting his emotions, Jang Yeol confides in Jongmuk about his concerns for Yi-boon as a man. With his captain's blessings, he hastily makes his way to her side. Racing back with a sense of urgency, Jang Yeol rushes to reach Yi-boon. Meanwhile, she arrives at the workshop, much to Sunwoo's disappointment. To create an opportunity to be alone with Yi-boon, Sunwoo accidentally spills coffee on their uninvited guest, expecting Shaman Park to depart. However, instead of leaving, Shaman Park surprises Sunwoo by requesting him to escort him to the restroom. Left alone in the workshop, Yi-boon's curiosity gets the better of her, and she opens the toolbox Sunwoo had pushed aside. To her shock, she discovers the murder weapon concealed within. When Sunwoo eventually returns, he realizes Yi-boon has made this troubling discovery. Startled, she decides to leave, prompting Sunwoo to grab the knife and chase after her. Wait, what? As Yi-boon flees for her life, she abruptly halts in her tracks, her path blocked by the menacing presence of the poncho killer. Wait, what? Sunwoo leaps into action, knocking the assailant off their feet, urgently instructing Yi-boon to run. She manages to escape, finding a hiding spot nearby, from where she calls for assistance. While waiting for the police to arrive, Yi-boon recalls Sunwoo's words and summons the courage to return and rescue him. Armed with a shovel, she returns to the location where the killer attacked but is met with a chilling sight. Only Sunwoo, lying motionless on the ground. That cliffhanger indeed. The last 10 to 15 minutes had me glued to the screen, utterly taken aback by the numerous unexpected twists. While my attention was fixated on uncovering the identity of the poncho killer, what I should have been focusing on was identifying the next potential victim. Since the assemblyman's demise, and especially after Yi-boon's grandpa, the show has consistently shocked me with its choice of characters to eliminate, and this episode significantly raised the stakes. Initially, it seemed like anyone could be the culprit, but now it feels like anyone could become the next target. Given my growing affection for these endearing yet quirky characters, I'm genuinely concerned for their safety. The show's approach to unraveling the mystery bit by bit is commendable. The twists feel both surprising and logically sound. Consequently, each revelation contributes meaningfully to the story, and the show doesn't rely on deceit to mislead its audience. Instead, it closely follows the main characters, allowing us to perceive the case from their perspective, biases, and all. Even when the show chases after red herrings, it does so not to obfuscate the truth, but to highlight that certain truths stem from people's fallible memories. This narrative approach ties beautifully with the show's overarching premise, anchored in Hee-won's psychometric powers, demonstrating how people don't always remember details accurately. It underscores the idea that memories can be deceptive, and the same event can appear vastly different from various perspectives. With all the murders in the show and subsequent tension, I'm happy the humor is still present and kicking. The restroom scene where Jong-mook and Deok-hee bought the other's time was hilarious, as was Jang Yeol's failed experiments. Every time the lights came back on and revealed Jang Yeol stabbing Jong-mook furiously was a riot, and Kim Hee-won's deadpan expression and delivery are perfection. His range as a performer is top-notch, and he blends so well into every project he is in that I can't complain that he's practically everywhere right now. As for the romance, I love the quiet moments between Hee-won and Jang Yeol during the funeral scenes, and it highlighted why their relationship feels so much deeper than Hee-won's arguably superficial crush on Sun-woo. While I think Sun-woo may have been romantically interested in our psychic vet before his sad end this week, their relationship felt imbalanced. She's always the one comforting him, and even in a situation where he should have been the one to offer his condolences, he can only put his emotions first. That isn't to say I think Sun-woo is selfish, but it did portray why these two wouldn't have worked well together. In contrast, Jang Yeol acts as Hee-won's pillar and goes out of his way to set up arrangements, buy her food, and encourage her. He does all this because he wants to, and though he did put his foot in his mouth like a huge idiot and threw her in holding cell, really Jang Yeol, he clearly cherishes her. Hee-won also is becoming more aware of Jang Yeol, and I think she's been unconsciously leaning on him for quite some time. Despite her interest in Sun-woo, she always ends up by Jang Yeol's side and turns to him when she needs help. In addition, she notices Jang Yeol's pain when he, himself, becomes too absorbed in the things around him, and just as he takes care of her, she takes care of him. Whether or not they end up together as a couple officially at the end is still up in the air, but regardless, I hope both of them make it out of this ordeal alive and well, because after all this madness, they deserve a break. Absolutely, the show's ability to maintain its humor amidst all the murder and tension is a breath of fresh air. The restroom scene where Jong-mook and Deok-hee bought time was uproarious, as were Jang Yeol's failed experiments. The moments when the lights came back on, revealing Jang Yeol ferociously stabbing Jong-mook, never failed to elicit laughter, and Kim Hee-won's deadpan expression and delivery were nothing short of perfection. His versatility as a performer shines through, seamlessly blending into every project he takes on, even if he seems to be everywhere these days. Regarding the romance in the show, the quiet moments between Hee-won and Jang Yeol during the funeral scenes beautifully underscore why their relationship feels deeper than Hee-won's arguably superficial crush on Sun-woo. While there might have been hints of Sun-woo's romantic interest in our psychic veterinarian before his unfortunate demise this week, their relationship did seem somewhat unbalanced. She was consistently the one offering comfort, even in situations where he should have been the one extending condolences, primarily focused on his own emotions. It's not to say Sun-woo is selfish, but it does highlight why they might not have been the best fit. In contrast, Jang Yeol acts as Hee-won's reliable support, going out of his way to arrange things, buy her food, and offer encouragement because he genuinely wants to. Despite the occasional misstep, like the rather inexplicable incident involving a holding cell, yes, Jang Yeol, it's clear that he holds Hee-won in high regard. Yi-boon too seems to be growing more aware of Jang Yeol's presence and has, perhaps unconsciously, leaned on him for some time. Regardless of her interest in Sunwoo, she often finds herself by Jang Yeol's side, seeking his help when needed. Furthermore, she notices when Jang Yeol is in pain, pulling him back when he gets too absorbed in the chaos around him. Just as he takes care of her, she reciprocates by taking care of him. Whether they officially become a couple by the end of the series remains uncertain, but I share your hope that both of them emerge from this ordeal alive and well. After all the madness, they truly deserve a break. Leave me a comment and let me know what you think. For more content of this type, leave me a like and follow the channel by activating the bell.